Nectar is one of the most popular all-foam beds on the market, and their top-of-the-line model is the Nectar Premier Copper, which adds copper fibers to the cover to help with cooling. Of course, the natural question for us in our Sleep Foundation test lab was, does it really? Now, the results were a little surprising, if we're honest, because this bed does some things really quite well. Is cooling one of them? Let's find out. And hey, if you think this bed is right for you, then we have a link to the latest discount in the description below, so check that out. Well, we're taking a look at the Nectar Premier Copper All Foam, but we should note that this bed is also available in a hybrid. And with the All Foam, you get a bed with 3 thick layers of foam that are gonna total 14 inches high. So this is, relatively speaking, a pretty high profile mattress with a lot of foam. And of course, as we say often around here, foam is notorious for trapping heat. So Nectar has done what a lot of other brands do, which is add copper into the fibers of its cover to help mitigate some of that heat buildup. Now, if you've noticed recently, copper has a pretty good PR team. Copper has been touted as being good for athletic recovery. It's been used as an antimicrobial. And of course, brands will often claim that it's great at cooling. But I guess, does it work? Well, according to a couple of recent studies, the jury is still out on whether copper actually functions as an antimicrobial. And for cooling, well, let's see what we found from our testing. The marketing claims on this bed is that the copper combined with that phase change material on the top layer will offer triple action cooling. So as we put this bed through our temperature testing, you can see that the Premier Copper heats up more than the average all foam bed, and it tends to hold on to more heat for longer as well. When we set the Copper Premier against the other models in the Nectar line, namely the original Nectar and the Nectar Premier, it didn't quite perform as well as those either. Now look, I just mentioned that foam tends to trap heat. That's foam's DNA. It was designed to react to your body heat and then conform to your body. And when that happens, it holds on to that heat in order to keep its shape. Now, when you have 14 inches of foam from top to bottom, it's a lot of foam and a lot of opportunity to hold on to heat. It's tough for copper fibers in a cover that, by the way, you're just gonna cover with a sheet. It's really tough for copper to counteract all of the heat that memory foam retains. So if temperature control is one of the most important factors, it's probably worth looking to the hybrid version of this bed. So okay, the bed struggled with heat retention, but what did it do well? Well, for starters, it offers very good pressure relief. Our team laid a pressure pad on the Premier Copper and then measured those places where they registered pressure. You can see on this first image, as they laid on their back, that we measured little to no pressure. And then the same goes for when they laid on their stomach. Now, when they laid on their side, you can see some yellow around the hips, but negligible pressure around the shoulders. So while these foam layers may heat up, the result is a surface that conforms to your body and should be really good at pressure relief. Oh, and speaking of side sleepers, when it comes to support, we love this bed for side sleepers. For most of our testing group, we found the layers kept shoulders and hips and spines in a really healthy alignment, regardless of their weight class. But as you can see, if you're a back or a stomach sleeper, we think you should approach this bed with some caution. Our testers reported sinking into the surface a bit more than they like, and that tended to compromise their support. All right, so the final thing we tested on the Premier Copper was the motion isolation. And in a word, it was excellent. We test a bed's motion isolation by getting in and out of bed, moving around on the surface, and then measuring how much movement gets registered by a vibrometer. As you can see from this chart, the Premier Copper outperformed the average of our all foam beds in this test. Now, interestingly, this bed even outperformed the Nectar Premier and the original Nectar. Those thick foam layers do a great job of isolating motion, and our testing team reported barely feeling the shifts and movements of another person in the bed. So if you're someone who sleeps with a partner, or maybe just a really restless pet, then we think this will be a great choice. So where does this leave us? In short, we think the copper and the cooling claims are just claims. Don't buy this bed solely for that reason. But if you want something with excellent pressure relief, very good motion isolation, and you love the feel of sleeping on a foam bed, this is gonna be a great pick. If you want more information on the Premier Copper, check out our full review over at sleepfoundation.org. And hey, we also love the entry-level Nectar. It does all of the same things well that the Premier Copper does at about half the cost. So check out the full review of that right here. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching. Sleep well.